Good morning, beautiful people, or whatever time it is when you are watching this. I just love saying that. Today, I just want to give you some things to highlight about education, working with the education system, fighting with the education system, like parenting rights. Parents, you run how the school runs. You're in control of how the school runs. They just don't want you to know, so you don't change too much. But I have personally witnessed and seen and fought back parents who complained about this or requested this, and they were able to get so many things done in their favor simply because they mentioned it. Now, in certain areas, people know that, and people, you got to know the rules to bend the rules and know how to, you know how it goes. If you know, you know, type of thing. And that's why they don't publicly educate freely parents on all the things and the ins and outs of the education system. But that's what you got me for, because I'm passionate about it. I want kids to do well. Between kids and parenting, that's my zhish. And so I'm just here to help you understand and figure some things out and give you some pointers. And I hope this helps you. So I'll be reading from a list per usual, because you know I like to talk, to keep me on track and to make sure I cover everything. And I'm just going to fire these off. So if you haven't learned by now, watch my videos, it's probably best to have a notepad. Um, I don't say things in a way for you to take notes, but I'm probably more naturally a lecturer because I'm a talker. But because it's educational, we'll say it's lecturing. So this one, like I said, these are just bullet points, and you can probably write these down to refer back to later, so you don't have to rewatch the video. Okay. First things first, everything they say is not law nor always accurate. They, teachers, educators, counselor, psychologist, diagnostician, anybody who works for the school that you are interacting with, everything they say is not law. They will communicate it as law. They will say it as if it's definitive and this is it, and like it's non-negotiable. It's the only way it is. This is how it has to be, and it's usually not. They just don't want you to fight back, or they have how they want things to go to make their lives easier or to be smoother. So push back. I always say push back, ask more questions. I know people don't always know what questions to ask. I'm going to get into that into this video, but everything they say is not law, for one, meaning there's wiggle room for you to request more or less or disagree, even. That's a big one. You can actually disagree. And everything they say isn't actually accurate. They say stuff confidently, like a lot of people on social media, because if you say things a certain way, people will believe you. And so if they say it with a certain tone, and if other people in the room are agreeing, you're gonna be like, oh, or sometimes they just be bullying y'all. Honestly, sometimes the people in those rooms in those meetings, they just use their power and authority to scare you to agree. To be fair, and to be honest, and but everything they say isn't true. Sometimes they be white lying or just lying in general because you don't know that they're lying. So, next one, read the procedural safeguards. This is specifically if you were going through the special education process. So, if your child has an IEP or you are getting them tested for special education services, which means they will get an IEP at some point, I'll let you know what all these letters mean in just a moment as well. They're going to give you a document. They're required to give you a document once your child enters special education. Once you go to an ARD meeting, um, they have to give you a copy of this. And if they don't, remember point one. But they are by law supposed to give you those. And some people, just to safeguard, at least where I work, they give it to you in every meeting. I don't know if you have to get it in every meeting, but I know you have to have a copy of it. Okay. And some places who do things the right way make you sign for it so that they can cover themselves to say that they did give you a copy of it. And they will briefly go over it. They usually would just say some spiel about these are your rights as a parent. Read it. There's a number on the last page, in the last paragraph, if you have any questions. Read it. It's going to reiterate a lot of things I'm saying and more detail what I'm not saying, because I don't have time and I don't have it in front of me to go in it line by line. If that is something people need, they can contact me, or I can make a video if enough people at some point say, we read it and we don't know what the hell it means. I don't mind helping you figure it out. I don't mind helping you understand it. Next point, research your state regulation and your district policies. So everything I say is Texas relevant. And but however, as I am licensed as a therapist in other states, I have parents as clients in other states who tell me about what's going on, because it's part of the reason they're in therapy. dealing with their child's issues and how the school is mishandling it or not handling it at all. And I just recently had a client who is in another state, and the school is denying testing, which they legally cannot do. And so I told her what I know it to be, because some rules are state specific, some are district specific, and some are just federal law, right? And that's why I said in point one that everything they say is not law. Some of it is just what they prefer. Okay, but they're just not going to say, well, we would like for you to do this and we would like to handle it this way. They're going to say, this is the way this goes. And it's like, is it? And when this client was telling me this stuff, I was like, that is not true. They are gaslighting you, and they are like weaponizing information. They were taking things that were true and saying it to her in a way to mean the opposite, because she didn't know what those words mean or what the processes they were referring to. So in real time, I was like, this is how this goes. This part I know is federal law. I know this stuff off the back of my hand. And I said, you know what? Did you look it up for your state? And she said, no, I was just so overwhelmed and I just felt so defeated. I said, oh, have no fear. In real time, I Googled the laws for her state, and it literally said what I had already told her. And I sent her the links, and I said, respond to those people and say these things, refer to these clauses. And I looked up her state rules and then her district rules. And most of it was on par for what it is in Texas. Some things did say the school has some say in certain on how they do the processes, but what they told her was completely false. Hence my point number one, is that everything they say is not accurate. And she was just like, I just didn't know any of this at the time. I said, oh, I know. I'm not upset with you, but this is what I'm telling you to respond. Don't leave it where it is because they think they wrote you off and got you out of their face. No. Fight for your kids. Advocate for your kids. If no one has your kids' best interest at heart, you should. And so I told her what to say and all the things. If you need those type of resources, you can always contact me and I can help you one-on-one as much as I can. And, she was relieved at the end to have all this information, because how else would she have known? And they know the average person don't know this. And I don't know if I would know if I didn't work in the school system. And I worked with part of the assessment team and the special ed team. I was part of that process, and I was liaison. So I know it very well, even though I'm removed now. That was something I was passionate about when I was there. Parenting rights. I was agreeing with parents in those meetings, or I would call those parents and say, hey, when you come back, say this, do this, because they weren't going to fire me, for one. Two, this is stuff parents are allowed to have knowledge of. The school is just not giving it to them. Because even for the client I was just telling you about, she didn't know what to Google. She didn't know what terms to Google. When she told me what was going on and I was saying whatever, I knew exactly what phrase to type in, and it was the first thing in my search engine. And so that's why I just sent her the links, because she didn't know she can Google this stuff. She didn't know it was public information. And so some of you may not either. And that's why I'm telling you, research Texas special education laws, Texas special ed testing requirements or regulations. And then a big one here is Houston ISD special education process, testing process, whatever it is you're looking for. Look it up, because that way you'll verify, again, point one, if what they said is actually law and if it's even accurate. Next, attend all the meetings. There can be a lot of meetings, and it can be frustrating and overwhelming, especially when you don't know what the hell they're talking about, because they will talk over your head. And I think that's sometimes what they intend to do. Some people do get advocates, but I'm trying to tell you how to do as much of this on your own for free, for those, so that this is accessible for all people. People have the means and resources to find someone who can go to those meetings with them and have like one-on-one meetings with people like me for a fee. I think a lot of this stuff, because it's already free information, people just don't know it. I want to give it to you. I'll be the one to give it to you. So I try to attend all the meetings. I know you're busy. I know you have work. These meetings can be longer than they tell you. They'll say, oh, it'll be an hour, and you can be in those meetings 34 hours. Depending on if everybody has their stuff, you can be in those meetings all day and miss a full day of work. I've seen it. I understand. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? So schedule them when they work for you in advance. Ask them how many meetings they will have, how frequently, and they can try to schedule them out ahead of time so you can plan ahead or have someone go on your behalf. A lot and nowadays a lot of them will do them virtual since we had to do that during the panini. So ask questions. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways. Next thing about the meetings is I created this resource myself as a former educator. It's called Parent Teacher Conferences Composition Notebook. That's my name here. And you can find this on Amazon. In this book, you will find a lot of stuff I'm talking about. As you can see, there's templates. This book is equipped with all the special education and education language or jargon, as we say. I have all those in here. Okay. So somewhere at the beginning, you will find what they will use, the acronyms. It says SPED ABCs, understanding special education acronyms. It's pages of this. It's the acronym and what it means. I've typed it out in my own words of what it means and how to use it. And so, like the word ARD stands for admission, review, and dismissal. ADHD is in here. What 504 is, different terminology or acronyms, because especially when it comes to special education, it's mostly acronyms, not plain English. I have them in here. Now, a lot of this is based on me being in Texas. However, when I was gathering the information to look up these terms, I tried to use the ones that are most commonly used in America. But again, district to district, what I did also learn while creating this guide is that they change a few letters. It's the same thing, but it's called something different. So, for example, we have what is it? There are certain things that, for example, in Texas we have FIE, full individual evaluation. That's what you're requesting when you want them to test for everything because you're just not sure. You're wanting a FIE, and they're going to say FIE. They're not going to say full individual evaluation. That's what it is. But this client I was talking to, when I was Googling FIE process in her state, FIE is not a thing. It was called something with an I. It didn't start with an F. It was like individual something independent evaluation something. It was called something else. And so things like that could vary. So just FYI ahead of time, in case you feel like some things are missing, it's possible. And some things are there and just call something else. I also have questions you should ask, because the other thing about these meetings, a lot of times parents just sit there and agree or say yes, one, because they're ready to go, two, because they don't understand, and that's how they want it to be smoother. Because if you push back and ask questions, one, they're either going to have to really be on their stuff, which they're usually not, and two, it will make the meeting run longer and they'll be scrambling. So they talk fast, they say everything, and then they just say, do you agree? And you say yes, usually. Say no if you don't agree, or say, can you explain? But also in here, I have questions to ask that you probably wouldn't know to ask, but you should ask. You definitely need to ask these questions. I just found a typo. Hopefully I remember to fix this before you buy it. But you would get the point. And then after that, every page is like a sheet of paper in a composition notebook, but it's a template. And in this template, I have where you have the date and you can document certain things, but I have it as a template because this is stuff you should know before you leave each meeting. So I have that written out in certain sections, so that way you don't have to remember, what do I need to ask? What should we talk about? What did we talk about last time? It's here. And so what happens, every time you have a meeting, you have this here. Anytime you have an email or something comes up, you can go back and say, no, on this day, I talked to this person and this is what was said. Or no, I called on this day. Everything will be here. So people can't confuse you or lie to you. Mistakes do happen, but you'll always have, a personal record of what's going on, because they're going to have a record and you don't know what they're putting in that record, honestly. So this is on Amazon. Strongly recommend. So yeah, ask questions. And if you don't know what questions, get the book. Don't say yes and sign everything. It's okay to decline. You can say, not today. I want to think about it. Some things do have like timelines. And so you should ask, how long, by when do I need to give you an answer? When does this process start? Again, ask questions. But it's okay to decline specific services that you feel like your child doesn't need. If they are forcing testing on you, you can say, well, on your child, You can say no, whether you want to do it outside of the school or you feel like what they're requesting is not even fair or particular to your child, that you don't feel like what they're considering makes sense to you. You can say no. They can't force your child to be assessed. Um, in the same way, if you request assessment, they can't decline you either. They have to prove they can in certain states give you reasons why they don't want to test. But the thing with that is they have to have due process and show you hard proof, and parents just don't know what that proof is. And so I'm gonna tell you, the proof is they need to have at least 6 weeks of data from week 1 to week six with dates tracking progress or the lack thereof, meaning they stay the same, they are regressing, or they're progressing even slowly, or they're up and down, and what they've tried to do in that process that's helped or not worked, okay, or helped a little bit or helped temporarily. They should be able to submit that to you and say, hey, over the last 6 weeks, this da da da, and so therefore we don't think your child needs that. They don't be tracking data that closely most of the time because people don't have time for that. So ask questions, push back. Also, if they are telling you we have concerns your child is autistic, even though they can't diagnose your child, but if they say stuff like that, because it does happen, and you're like, and this is not if you're in denial, but if you're just like, where y'all getting that from? Because mm, I got people I know, friends, family that would have been caught that. So say, okay, thank you for letting me know your concerns. And if you feel like it could be a legitimate concern, go get them tested somewhere else. One, because I talked about this in another video, the testing they do, one, is limited. Two, the process, it can take all school year for you to find out something. Now, it can take you a while if you're on a waiting list to get assessed somewhere else. But a lot of things you can get assessed with a psychiatrist or a therapist for like anxiety, ADHD, things like that. Um, Autism, you can see a psychiatrist. Some of these things you may need to see a psychologist. Some things you can see a PCP for if you didn't know. So you can always say thanks, but no thanks, and then go find out for yourself and then bring back the data if you desire. If there is something discovered to the school, and then say, I would like to get services for my child to accommodate these diagnoses that we found. I've already mentioned requesting data and documentation. You can request additional assessments, not just if they're saying we want to test for ADHD and you're like, no, let's test for everything. You have a right to say that, even if they're like, oh, well, we don't have concerns. That's great. I didn't ask you if you had concerns. I said I want to test for everything. Thank you. Um, and all of this is essentially to get you what you're entitled to. Fight for your kids. You have rights as a parent. Use them. Please don't abuse them, because y'all, the ones, some of y'all be doing too much, and y'all, relax. Relax. Teaching is hard. Don't take it out on teachers. Take it out on the people at the top, because they make hundreds of thousands of dollars and not doing nothing. The teachers are doing the best they can with the limited time and resources and money that they have. They are trying, but it's only so much they can do as humans, okay? But that doesn't mean let anybody off the hook. Therapists are human, teachers are human, your child's human, your child lives matter, your child's education matters. So help them get the best education possible.